from Brazil, and I'm Canadian too, but I appreciate Africa, and I have huge appreciation towards the country and the young mass of marketers who's coming from there. So today, because our event is very technical on marketing, and I am originally from Brazil, and I'm Canadian too, but I appreciate Africa. Oh, that's amazing. See, you have two Brazilian in this event.
Oh, wow. Awesome.
So
Oh,
it's my pleasure to take part of the Young Marketing Professional Network event. And today as I talked with Grant, my good friend Grant yesterday, this event is full of technicians in marketing. So, and this, as mentioned by Mr. Tony, these moments are special moments for reflection on what's going on. So I decided to bring a topic that is much more philosophical for reflection, and then the technical stuff we will be treating late. It will be with very competent people that are around. So let me introduce CIMO, the Chartered Institute of Marketing Management of Ontario. It was created by the Parliament of Ontario in 1988 with the blessing of Her Majesty the Queen Elizabeth. And Mr. Tony, I'm really looking forward to connect with the National Institute of Marketing of Nigeria to have more collaboration and to foster the cause of making the world a better place through marketing, not in spite of marketing. So why we think we wake every day excited is because we believe the marketing profession needs a paradigm shift. And this is very much aligned with the theme of your event today with the Young Marketing Professional Network. So marketing has been deemed not trustworthy for a long time by multiple stakeholders in the world. Recent research by Gallup Institute in the United States ranks sales professionals, and number 18 in terms of trust by the consumer. How do we do this at CIMO? By educating people, by facilitating, by persuading, by building capacity, by sharing knowledge, by connecting marketers and industry alike. And we believe that helping marketers, it will change the world, because we will help marketers to change the world. What do we do at CIMO? Skills development. We have the CIMO Academy. You're welcome to visit it. It's for free, cimocx.org. We have 4,000 courses available online to everybody. It's free for all. Academic accreditations for programs and school. We have professional designations for marketing professionals who are experienced. We have the Chartered Professional Marketers. Grant and myself, we are Chartered Professional Marketers. The certified marketers and registered marketers for diploma holders, which is a certification. And obviously we coach and mentor young and senior professionals. So let's talk about the context of the world today. We cannot separate marketing from the context that we live at, and today is really very important reflection that we need to make. I'm quoting an ancient wisdom here, where it says, "If you wish peace, care for justice." And if we look around, obviously we see that a lot of things need to happen to see justice happening at the same time. So I'm choosing one philosopher that I am following closely, and he is one of the most, like, the best thinkers that I believe has captured the context of nowadays. The theme is liquid world. So we are living in unprecedented liquidity, as mentioned by Zygmunt Bauman, the late Polish and British philosopher, who wrote a couple of books on liquid life, liquid times, liquid modernity, and even liquid love. And he captured the context how the world has been changing from the solid state, where we use everything well-defined, nation states, institutions, societies, community, towards a liquid state where no boundaries anymore. Globalization has taken over the world. So, and the liquidity, the liquid reality as a contest he defines, first starts with the reality that is transitioning, and it's not permanent. We live in a dynamic and very constantly changing world. you know, the substitution of the desire, the needs. You know, we marketers talk about a lot about the needs of our customers, and it has been in this liquid reality replaced by the constant desire for things. So it's not only need, we desire things. It has shaped the identity of people. So today we talk a lot about identity because nation states are not looked as representative, and then you have the conversions between the identity and the consumers. So I am recognized by what I consume, whether it's an iPhone or a good car or whatever. It's not as much as an identity thing as it used to be in the solid state in the past. And the persona, we marketers look always at our target market, and then we identify, we design the persona, we brand for persona. And now the persona has changed too in this liquid reality, where consumers are a competitive good in global market. We are always on social media. We're sharing our stories, trying to compete for likes and for appreciation. And this is a global market. And also it shaped the consumption reality, where rewarding become a peculiarity, and a vicious spiral has started between, you know, possession and consumption. Now we have this obsession for, I need to possess things, and I need to have the, you know, the youngest cell phone, and the you know, the freshest applications and so on. So Zygmunt Bauman challenges, he identified some challenges in liquid of the liquid times. As I said, the passage from the solid, well-defined society to a very fluid and liquid one. Citizens are apathetic because leadership has not been able to solve their problem. And then we can see the results in elections since 2017 in the world, and it's still happening. So we have a kind of radicalized discourse. We see curtailing of communals and the rise of you know, individuality. I know that Africa, the communal is very important, and it has been in, everywhere. And now we're seeing the curtailing of this community, the sense of community, and we see a collapse of this social solidarity, where people are, you know, have this close solidarity to others. And the collapse of long-term thinking. We think consumers are starting to think very short-term oriented. And this is really something that we need to reflect on. And as well as the emergence of the free choosers, which means, you know, I am free to choose whatever I want. I don't care about others' choices. And this is something troublesome because we move towards what we call, you know, ethical dilemma. Another Italian philosopher, Umberto Eco, he reflected on this liquid society thought by Bauman, and he identifies in his book called Chronicles of a Liquid Society some challenges and some crises. And he said, we are living in a crisis context nowadays. And I can see like the geopolitical situation, the COVID-19 response, and all of these things are a reflection to this. So first he said, we live a crisis of concept. We are losing, we are not able to grasp the clear concept of, you know, what can constitute a community. We are living in extreme individualism, where people are like, you know, it's unbridled individualism, where people are just focused on themselves, their image, and the product that they want to project themselves to the world. And you see a lot of indignation around the world. Like people are really know what they don't want, but they don't know what they want. And new narratives are you know, emerging. So you see people like two main narratives nowadays. One's called it like, you know, in political science, right and left, and extreme right and extreme left. And postmodernism, as he says, signals a crisis of grand narratives. So why awareness is important? We need, and that's why I'm bringing this question to all of us to reflect, especially you, new marketers, because we hope that you will bring the change to this world, making the world a better place through marketing. Because if we are not aware, we cannot change this situation. There is a remedy to this, and that's why awareness is important. So what is happening to the community, to the persona, to the consumers? These are fused, in my opinion, into this liquid world, and they are confused. They lost their references, and the referential point has been lost from within the society. So what is happening to the persona as a consequence of this liquid world? I'm calling it liquid persona. We are so fluid. Our opinion is shaped by, and our trust is shaped. So customer are losing their trust. Trust definition has been morphed and been impacted by these liquid times. What are the limits between the digital me? What is the role of artificial intelligence in this liquid world? How do we, distinguish between the digital me on social media, the happy person that is, showing the world a lot of happiness, whereas we have a lot of problems. So the rise of cyber physical consumers, the me digital, the me, persona, it has been a challenge, and the entangled reality. We don't distinguish anymore between a genuine experience and artificial one. So you have all of these technology help things, what we call deep fake, you can do whatever you want. The fake news, augmented reality, invented reality. And then we ask ourselves, where are ethics in all of this? What is the ethical framework that we need to use in order for dealing with this situation? And this is a special and critical question for marketers. Is it deontological, consequential, or relative ethics? We see the rise of relative ethics, where people think if that pleases me, it's ethical. And that's the extreme individualism that we are talking about in this liquid world that generated the liquid persona. So my question here regarding the theme of our reflection, are we shifting the paradigm, or we have gone far away and we need to return to the old paradigm where we are more humane, more ethical, more socially and environmentally responsible? Is this event of coronavirus is an invitation for us to go back and to revisit our old-fashioned concepts? So what COVID-19 has done, in my opinion, it accelerated change that has been in place. And that's what I was thinking about. Is it because of COVID-19 that all of these things are happening? Yes, it is. But the change has been coming on for a long time now, since the beginning of this century, since the 2000s. So what COVID-19 implications on the business ecosystem, and these are a couple of the collection of research that I've done, and the COVID-19 has forced us to rethink, reimagine the workplace. How are we redesigning the world? Look at us. Like I would love to be in Nigeria today to meet all of you, but I'm here in Canada and we are meeting through online means. The redesigning of the business model, we need to reflect, need to adjust, as mentioned by, Mr. Tony, the president of the National Institute of Marketing of Nigeria. We need to adjust, to adapt. That's what Darwin has said, in order to survive this wave of catastrophe. We need to revisit the supply chain. We just suddenly, because of globalization and the liquid world, we discovered that, look, we have put all the eggs in the same basket. And some strategic, suppliers need to be rethought, because the supply chain was deeply affected, especially regarding medical equipment. And obviously, we have the organizational culture that has been impacted. We see the consequences on businesses, especially small and mid-sized businesses. They're laying off people, and big businesses as well. Tourism industry has been deeply impacted, as much as other industries. And how do you recover the culture? How do you work out this culture? How do you recover the trust, which is hard to retain nowadays? And obviously the management model. How do we manage people remotely? All of these things were happening before COVID-19, but now we are forced to accelerate the implementation. So thinking of Bauman and Umberto Eco and the philosophers behind it, I think we as marketers especially you young marketers, the hope of this world, we need to rethink our marketing profession. And I coined a new term that I called liquid marketing. I'm calling based on this liquid reality. So how does marketing look like in a liquid world? Liquid marketing should go back to human-centric. We all claim, well, we are human-centric. We're customer-centric. We do all of the best for our customers. And with this liquid world, the narrative has been changed. So we need to go back to a human-centric approach. It should be meaningful and compassionate. Because if we don't have human beings as a center of our marketing activity, we are losing the sight. It should be customer experience oriented, where we should be focused on developing the most meaningful experience to our customers. And it should be technologically responsible. We have access to a lot of information. Artificial intelligence has given us wings to fly to unknown places. So what do we do with this information? We need to be responsible in using the technology too. And again, we need to be hyper ethical, socially and environmentally. We are depleting the planet. We have remarkably advanced as in terms of technology, but I'm not sure about our advances as a society. We need to revisit all of those issues. And as marketers, we have this obligation. So this is the concept of liquid marketing. Or how do we do this? Through a holistic approach to marketing, systems thinking mindset, design thinking orientation, a curious, compassionate, courageous thinkers in marketing, multiple perspectives that we need to bring in the table, the user's experience, the consumer's experience, the consumer's well-being, doing the right things, you know, and looking at sustainable change through holistic problem finding and approach, and actively breaking down silos. This individualism, this liquid world has created extreme individualism. Now we need to break out these silos. So we need to shift our mindset back to the old-fashioned paradigm. And this is my invitation to all of you, all of the new marketers. You are the hope of this planet. You are the hope of the humanity. We rely on you, as mentioned by Mr. Tony. We are old-fashioned marketers. We want you to take over this profession, do the right things, make this planet a better place to live. This is our cause at CIMO. We work every day to make the world a better place through marketing, and we invite you all to come on board, to join us in this cause that is worth fighting for. So thank you very much again, Ayo and Grant and all the participants. Thank you very much. It's my honor to open in this event with, you know, my remarks. I'm sorry if I brought too much on philosophical things. I think we need philosophy in marketing. This is a discipline that has been lacking there. So here's my email. I am available for questions. If you need, shoot me an email. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
You need to unmute yourself. For it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Yusuf. I remember the last time I was in Brazil, Sao Paulo. It was a wonderful experience.
Yeah.
Good to listen to you, and that was very engaging and thoughtful speech there. I can assure you, I'm sure you will share your slide with me eventually. And I can assure you that it will form part of the discussion of this summit. And for us too, as a team, young marketing professionals, all of the paper that will be discussed here are going to form part of our learning material, at least for the next 3 months. So we may likely still invite you, to the team. This is general, this is international. But when we are having our closed discussion, of course, yes, we will still invite you to share some thought with us. And that we will have more time, to do more justice. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you. And we thank you very dearly that the paper has started. And it will be form part of the discussion, like I mentioned earlier. So thank you. I want to say thank you to Dr. Lee. All right. Maybe it's doctor. We have no, I think it's professor. Dr. Lee or Professor Grant Lee, the registrar. I'm sure he has not used that title, but of course, yes, maybe he's hiding it. All right, so yes, we may have questions for Dr. Yusuf. At the appropriate time, we will be able to exchange some of those discussions or questions based on the paper he just discussion he just opened up. But because of time, we will take in all of the discussions, and then we can then have our questions and engagement interaction session. Okay, so once again, thank you, Dr. Yusuf. So right now, let me welcome once again to the platform. But after this short moment, this very short moment, and then we will go straight to the next paper. Okay, just give me a short moment, and then we will go straight. No. This is not coming. I won't play it. No, this is not what I want to play. What? Do I just show that? All right, thank you. So we are going straight to next paper. Let me once again welcome to the platform and to this summit, International Marketing Summit 2020, organized by Young Marketing Professionals of Nigeria. It is an honor and pleasure to have with us again for the first paper of the day, having been declared by Dr. Yusuf and the National Institute of Marketing President, Mr. Tony Agamomen. We're now ready to have our first paper for the day. And like I said earlier, meeting Dr. Lee was a wonderful experience 2 years ago, about just exactly 2 years ago in Canada. And I can assure you, the short moment we spent together, I was feeling like, wow, this is, we must hear more from him. And today is with us, is a president of AGL Marketing Limited, Canada, and he's also double as a registrar, Tata Institute of Marketing, Ontario, Canada. Ladies and gentlemen, join me as we welcome distinguished speaker for the keynote, discussion, Mr. Grant Lee.
Thank you, Ayo. Thank you, Ayo. If you would let me put my video up, you have to unlock me. You've
oh, sorry.
I can't start my video.
No, you should.
You have me locked down.
Oh, apologies. Okay, so you can go ahead and do that now. I think that was an error from my head. Sorry about that.
I'm still locked down, Ayo.
Your video, right?
Yeah, video. And then once the video starts, then I can get my screen going and all those things.
Okay, let me.
You muted me for a while, and then you blocked my video.
Oh, apologies. I want to look out for you now. Sort out. Okay, I'm trying to look for your account. Can you chat me so that I could pick you? I'm trying to look for that. I don't know how we got that mixed up.
This is going to be a very short presentation.
Oh, good, good.
If I
No
can't
worries.
show the video.
You have the moment. Okay. I'm trying to pick you. Chat me, please.
Yeah, it's it.
I'm
This
trying
the message says you cannot start your video because the host has stopped it.
Okay, I'm looking for your account online. I don't know how it got mixed up.
Oh, okay.
If you chat me in the chat room, I
Chat in
could,
the chat room. Okay, just a
pick you
second.
up, but I'm surprised that happened. So sorry.
It's okay. It's only technology.
Yeah, I can barely see your hand here. Okay, good. So I can see you now. What is happening? Why is it not now? Can you see me now? Oh, I should be able to see. Okay, I can see you. All right, sorry, I can.
You found me?
Yeah, I see you now. Good. Sorry.
Okay. All
Now
right.
you
So
are
let's. All right. So here I am. I'm back.
So sorry. So sorry.
All right. Thank you, Ayo. I won't delay with much of your time here and just get right into it. Just give me a moment here while I get my presentation up. Now you should be able to see my first slide. It should be filling your screen. Do you see that?
Yeah, you are on.
Okay, nothing else. You just see the slide.
We see you on the slide.
That's okay. I'll anyway, when I do these kinds of presentations, because I've been in marketing for a while, I always like to push a little bit and have a bit of fun as I go through them. So I'm going to take you on a little bit of an education loop this morning, bringing it back from the philosophical end of it and looking at the more traditional elements of marketing. I looked at the presentations of our speakers today, and I've tried to create a presentation that ties it into the fundamentals of marketing. So without anything further here, I'm going to try and do a trick here, which I've just done, and start the presentation. So by projecting historical data, just a second here, just trying to make you a little smaller. There we go. By projecting historical data and trends, and by being students of history, there is a chance. Now, do you have my video at the same time? Can you see my hands? Am I still, you still have my video there? Okay.
We can see you. We can see everything.
Okay, I'm just checking because on my screen it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
So by being students of history, there's a chance that occasionally we see glimpses of what might be. If there's one lesson learned from the COVID-19 pandemic, it's that businesses must be prepared for the unexpected, embodied in the 3 pillars of sustainable development: social, economic, and environmental. Any enterprise, from micro businesses within the small business definition to medium-sized enterprises and large transnationals, entrepreneurs must be prepared for change. Some change can be planned and some cannot. By following time-tested marketing standards, principles, and ethics, product-based and service-based enterprises can survive any unexpected change. Those marketing principles, and I spoke with marketers in Tanzania and Mauritius as well. No matter what country you are in the world, it doesn't matter. The marketing principles remain the same. So by complying and falling back on basic marketing principles, whoever you're working with in a marketing sense, you can be successful. Pandemics within the context of the dynamic geopolitical events likely characterize the new normal. Marketers, as Dr. Yosef said, can contribute to a better world through their work. Now, This presentation looks at the topics that will be covered by the summit speakers within the context of the marketing fundamentals to project expectations in the short and the long run. Now, I use a lot of little Giphies in this presentation, so some of them are fun. Marketers need not be scurrying throughout their networks, attempting to control events happening at the moment and reacting to change with new strategies and tactics. Marketers don't have to be running around. If you follow the principles, follow the standards, you will not be with this crowd. So what are we looking at with the fundamentals today? It's the 7 Ps. No matter where you go in the world, these fit into everything that you're doing. The fundamentals are of the marketing mix for MSMEs. My specialty is in small to medium-sized businesses. So this is where my expertise lies. The goal is to influence the mind of the individuals and the target audience of the marketing campaign. Now, you heard Joseph talk about that. This is what happens in the marketing mix. In summary, marketing is metaphorically a mind game. Some call it a contact sport. Others say it's all about perception. Now, where are we going with this today? The summit speakers are sharing their best understanding of what is likely to happen in 8 specific subject areas of marketing within the principle of the 7 Ps. Each of the subject areas shares space among one or more elements of the marketing mix. We have brand management, public relations and advertising, effective sales, client experience management, marketing and market research, digital and social media, customer service intelligence, and agile marketing. So I'm going to take each of these and I'm going to fit them into the 7 Ps so that you can see that each one has a role in it. Each is affected by one of the elements of the principle of the 7 Ps. Let's begin by summarizing how selected topics of the summit fit within the first, which is product. Now remember that product is also service. So we're talking product and service here, but I will just say product with the understanding that we're talking about services as well. Elements of product include brand management, which one of our speakers will be talking about, public relations and advertising, experiential marketing, and market research. Changed economic and social environmental conditions following the pandemic are likely to affect product quality and standards. Now at this point, I'm going to take a little break and I'm going to give you a little anecdotal experience. This is one of the clients that I worked with. It was a small business, a tanning salon in a small Canadian town, and they're mostly Caucasians who have the disposable income to tan in the sun in the little salons during the dark, cold winter months, and then take a vacation in the late winter months to the Caribbean or Mexican destinations. They arrive there tanned and enjoy their week in the sun. But now with the pandemic, the salon is closed. Tanning is not essential. There are fewer people with disposable income for tanning because the economy weakened and they lost their jobs. The new social norms require masks and distancing and rethinking of family health and what matters most. Gatherings on crowded public beaches and resorts is no longer considered safe by many, and the tan may be a fading afterthought for personal appearance and social interaction. Millennials and iGens care about the environment and now are questioning products created from natural resources that have a negative impact and services that have little benefit to their generation. Natural environments are changing. They're changing quickly, and many tourist destinations are impacted drastically by climate change and severe weather patterns. The real product of the business, this little tanning business, is to help clients enjoy a unique personal experience enhanced by tanning. Before the pandemic, service quality was very high in this little business, and they delivered according to industry and health standards. So they had a high quality product, and they were governed by standards. Post pandemic, the little business, because there's fewer clients, it must deliver an even higher product and service quality and still maintain the standards that are placed upon them to do business. With failing disposable income of customers, enhancing product experience to increase quality of service to attract new clients while holding repeat clients, this may not be achievable. So let's take a look at some of the others that are here on the product. What other things might be changing? The online and offline availability of products and the source of product components due to geopolitical dynamics. Product innovation, especially from the information generation. Now, if you haven't studied iGens, they're just entering the marketplace in North America right now. This generation is a virtual world. So get to know the background of iGens and understand what their life experiences are, because they're going to introduce things that you and I can't even imagine. We can't even imagine right now. The innovation generation will bring a whole new force on marketers. Now, how an enterprise, small or large, is socially accountable to the public. Its customers or clients, employees, stakeholders, and itself. You'll hear me talk more about this a little bit later, corporate social responsibility. You know, and at the end of the day, and there's more likely that the scenario is that as time passes, many enterprises, especially the micro businesses, they're going to slip back into their old pre-pandemic ways of marketing. And you know, even if they had any marketing program before, which they probably didn't. So I would expect that, you know, as time passes, all the innovations and all the thoughts that a new change is happening, when they get the chance, they'll be looking at their profit margins. And if they ever had a marketing program before, which may have never existed, they'll slip back into their old ways. So what may be the takeaway from this? Not all products will continue to be needed or wanted by customers. The pandemic will affect what people want to purchase and what they need to purchase. Confusion about product demand and mistakes in reading customer wants and needs will be commonplace among small business entrepreneurs. Millennials and iGens tend to be more discreet in their decisions to purchase products than Generation X and baby boomers. If the notions of sustainable development and resiliency are not embedded in products offered by MSMEs, they are not likely to be in any significant demand. Considering price, relevant subject matter of speakers, including effective sales, digital and social media, and customer service intelligence. These are the ones that I saw that would be most fitting into the price component of the 7 Ps. And this is what I see as changing. Customers may be willing to pay slightly inflated prices for products if they are perceived to be added value in the product within the context of sustainable development and corporate social responsibility. Now, I've got an example to go through here as well. The corporate, I had a small business, or there is a small business that I consulted to, and they became part of the local fabric in order to survive and thrive. They're a small business in the Canadian Arctic that produced yarn from the muskox. The business employed local Inuit people in the production of the yarn, local sales, and harvesting the animals for food and fiber byproduct. This business is pretty much immune from most of the effects of the pandemic and will survive. Online and offline sales may dip through 20 and 21 because some of their customers were affected by the pandemic and closed their shops that depended on tourism and the sale of yarn to tourists. They will reopen, however, and will recover slowly. The business in the Arctic embodies the principles of sustainable development and corporate social responsibility by holding itself to a set of legal, ethical, social, and ecological standards that benefit both the community and itself. Prices may be considered fair and affordable if customers see innovation that improves functionality and performance. Prices are likely to rise as poorer nations become wealthier and wealthier nations compete with higher wages and benefits for employees and availability of agricultural products and raw materials for industry. Geopolitical conflict is likely to affect food, water availability, raw materials for industry, and transport of goods and services. Such uncertainty affecting the supply chain of product and materials and direct availability of food and water may result in fluctuating prices. Products based on sustainable development and corporate social responsibility are likely to see a level of price stability, while products linked to geopolitics and long supply chains are likely to see fluctuations, making it challenging to sustain constant revenue streams and profits to grow in MSME. Profit for small businesses is the same as large businesses. If you're not making a sale and you're withholding a profit so you can invest back into your business, you're going to have a problem. Place. This deals with how the product is distributed to the consumer, not consumer, but the customer. The summit speakers are addressing public relations and advertising, effective sales, and digital social media. These three presentations have an effect on the strength of place in the marketing mix. We are now in an economy where product delivery has become as dependable and available as traveling to a physical place to make a purchase. I live in the Philippines from November through April because I don't want to be cold anymore in the Canadian winter. And my wife of 50 years, and she's a Filipina. We have as many family in the Philippines as we have in Canada. Anyway, in May, my adapter of my Dell computer burned out. It was unexpected, and I needed a new adapter very fast. My mobile business was threatened because I worked from a mobile office. I got lucky because within an hour, I had an improvised adapter from a Filipino computer technician that was in the village, but I needed a Dell part. I could not go to the mall because it was in lockdown due to the pandemic. I was restricted in movement to my property because I was over 60. My only option was to go online and make a purchase. I've done this in Canada, but I've never made online purchases outside of Canada. So I asked questions and learned that there's a reliable source called Lazada, which is a subsidiary of Alibaba. We don't have Lazada in Canada. I placed an order that was cash on delivery, which is another unexpected event. Normally we have to pay up front with a credit card. This was cash on delivery. So the exact part arrived at the driveway and the delivery date and the cash was paid at the gate. The product delivery was dependable and I was in no need to travel to a place for the transaction. There are great savings in travel time and costs, and products are a high quality and expected performance. The physical space is becoming reserved for tactile and visual product inspection. Appointments and restrictions on the number of people in the physical space can be expected. This is already normal in Canada. Many of our stores are small boutiques and stores are closed. You can only go into it by invitation, and you have to call in advance. Public relations and advertising drives customers and clients to virtual reality stores, warehouses, and social media pages and accounts. Products are being distributed from niche and boutique market spaces. Small and medium-sized entrepreneurs have discovered how to connect with target audiences in places never considered on social media. Travel to regional centers to shop is becoming of less interest and need of people to cocoon from the future pandemics. So people are moving less and they're starting to cocoon. Socializing by millennials and iGens online is now becoming normal. Travel for entertainment, recreation, and purchases of goods and services are now planned events. The concept of place in the marketing mix is transforming and may already have changed in many cultures and societies. This is happening very rapidly in Canada. Going shopping has become an event, whereas before we could just go to the mall. The malls are closed or they're limited in access. So there's usually an invitation to go to a specialized place where 2 or 3 people can do their grocery shopping together and then come back to their home. Promotion, spreading information through marketing tactics continues to find new avenues as marketing communications technology advances. Promotion is covered by the summit speakers in brand management, public relations and advertising, client experience management, marketing and market research, digital and social media, and customer service intelligence management. MSMEs will continue to engage in the decline of traditional offline advertising because online advertising has become much more affordable and clients are increasingly online. As marketing communication technology advances, MSMEs have access to out-of-home advertising where some may be able to access holograms. And these holograms, they may be as high as a building, many stories high. And mega graphic messages on the walls of buildings are becoming commonplace in some North American cities. Social media networks make local entrepreneurs regional personalities. They're pushing customers to points of sale online and off. Small business entrepreneurs are learning that their brand is not their logo and that the logo is designed for corporate identity. I run into this a lot with small businesses and the micro business subset. Branding to many entrepreneurs is confusing. Now more than ever, entrepreneurs must know that the essence of their brand and the brand promise as defined by their customers. Only then will they have a brand to manage. I have used combinations of SWOT analysis enhanced by client surveys using SurveyMonkey with Constant Contact, MailChimp, and WhatsApp to conduct brand audits to determine the brand of a small business. These include the Net Promoter Score to benchmark client loyalty. The audit enables my clients to work on strategy, tactics, and logo design to manage their brand. Customer and client experience management is now expected by clients and entrepreneurs. If you are not holding the hand of your repeat customers, believe me, your competitors are. Databases and metrics are available to MSMEs as easily as large businesses at low or no cost, now that the internet is part of the human experience. Databases and metrics help drive goals and objectives in strategy development and tactics and implementation. With the advent of digital world and social media, behavior and promotion is regulated through anti-spam and privacy legislation in North America, Europe, and other countries. This will continue to be an underlining force that the marketers have to deal with and understand in their online marketing. The ways to promote are advancing as quickly as the introduction of new technology for communications. VR, AR, and creative messaging online and offline are as important to businesses today as it was in the earliest times when an entrepreneur who had something to say or trade or sell said, "Hey, here I am. I'm over here. Buy my product." Nothing's changed. It remains the same. Many marketers I know joke that marketing is a contact sport. There is much truth in the metaphor that pokes a little fun at people who are directly or indirectly involved with the product or service of an MSME. Now, all 8 of our presentations that follow are involved with people. It touches every one of these ones. Pre-pandemic owners, management, staff, and all others engaged in MSME were already engaged or well on their way to creating a positive customer experience while becoming brand ambassadors. All people of a successful enterprise must understand how to maintain a positive customer experience with corporate and product brands and know the company and product brands to act as ambassadors at all times. Now, this is where I might get a little controversial. An MSE and the people of an MSME must engage in continuous education, and I believe that it must be mandatory for employment. They must understand the concept of sustainable development and customer experience management and how the business fits into the concepts. In this way, they will be better prepared to adapt to sudden change that may be triggered by pandemics. MSMEs nowadays must be driven by evidence-based decision-making, which means reading data and metrics, along with the vision and collective experience of the owners and management. Credentialed ownership, management, and production staff are vital to build trust and confidence in brands along with basic competencies. And mobile offices, the pandemic has verified that the value of a mobile office and tech-savvy staff, especially in Ontario, where many businesses now have shifted that senior staff are working from their homes and in some cases are not expected to return into the late fall. If marketing is not a contact sport, it is definitely and always has been an intimate exchange between a buyer and a seller. Whether the product is something to be consumed or a notion to be advanced. At this point, we've got the dancers going.
So okay, you're the big man. I wanna love you and treat you right. I wanna love you every day and every night. We'll be together with the roof right over our head. We'll share the shelter of my single bed.
I needed that little. We got a couple of slides left and I just took my little break. So let's continue with physical evidence. Online sales is not enough for many customers. Physical evidence of the enterprise is mandatory. They need to visit a place of business to sense the operation, especially visually. To many, a reception room, meeting rooms, goods displayed, and professionals dressed for business are critical factors in conducting a transaction. Now, our summit presenters are talking today about brand management, public relations and advertising, effective sales, customer experience management. These include the physical, these are all included in the P, that's the physical evidence. Now, how this notion adapts to the future will hold more pandemics, and each with a unique characteristic can only be considered an educated guess. In the Philippines, I have a client and close friend who has a resort on Lake Taal. His income was derived from water taxi service and limited accommodations and food services at the point of departure to an island within an active volcano. In January 2020, the volcano erupted, spewing ash for miles. The resort was covered in lahar and the destination obliterated. That was followed by the pandemic. Now, no more tourists and no more income. The physical evidence of an attractive destination is gone. There is little to attract tourists. The tourism business model for the resort to recover and thrive must be rewritten. For many MSMEs not selling perishable goods like food and pharmaceutical products, there may no longer be a need for a physical plant comprised of concrete and steel. Many MSMEs will develop a virtual business relationship and experience with customers. Experiences of the mind will compete with physical attractions. Virtual reality rooms and headsets will change the need for many millennials and iGens for travel and stays at places that may not meet their standards of cleanliness to avoid deadly viruses and bacteria. Just-in-time delivery of products and services will become commonplace, as will MSMEs with no inventory, but samples for customers to see, touch, and smell at neighborhood locations. And language and culture will matter more so than ever before for building trust and confidence in brands. The bottom line is that physical plant is quickly transforming to a virtual space for transacting business. I expect that the presentation on leveraging experiential marketing will reference client experience, the management or client experience management, and will lead to the interaction between the customer and the business through activities. This is process. So we're talking activities now. This is the only one that I saw that would fit into this discussion. What might be changing because of the pandemic, it's likely, or it's highly likely, that the complexity of managing a data-driven customer relations management system will continue to evolve to a customer experience management system. So we're going from the CRM to the CEM. This is slowly evolving, especially in the small to medium-sized businesses. And that means more organic characteristics, or more organic characterized relationships between the client, the business, and the product. There is no doubt that for large transnationals, the CRM will remain as part of the process, but for micro and small businesses, the CEM is key. Virtual and physical touch points for products will likely morph into a hybrid of process where there is a virtual and physical plant. It is likely that the virtual experience will far outweigh the physical, especially recognizing that products purchased online can be returned. Technology for integrated marketing communications will continue to evolve and improve. This sort of marketing technology is designed to capture and hold the mind real estate of targeted audiences who hopefully become repeat customers or clients. Process is like a checklist of activities to make it easy for a potential customer to make a purchase and then return for repeated transactions. Well, that's my take on the summit today and how speaker presentations will fit into the fundamentals of marketing. You know, and who knows what the future will bring. We may be able to project into the near future for weeks and months. Visualizing and strategizing for longer periods is risky and should be undertaken on the notion of evidence-based risk management. That's evidence-based risk management. Okay, Ao, I'm done with this. Let's move on to our other speakers today. And
Thank you.
I'm done.
Oh, good. Thank you, Mr. Granley. That was awesome, and I'm sure the participants picked very relevant information. Again, this is going to form part of the discussion for the and you have laid the foundation because you have also emphasized the part that each of the other speakers will be making reference to. All of the areas of specialization and branches in marketing will be touched in this summit. We are deliberate about that because we know that we won't be talking about sales alone, but about other branches of specialization in marketing, and that's what this conference is. The uniqueness of this conference. We are going to touch base with all of those areas, and I want to thank you for that was very timely, prompt to time. Okay, so we have questions, but I will request that our participants drop their question in the chat room, all right? So that we could take the other speakers. Mr. Granley, are you okay with that? We quickly.
Yeah, I'm fine with that, yes.
Okay, so if they drop their questions, we can take the next speaker, then we can just take all the questions together, if that's okay by you?
Yes.
Okay, so thank you so much.
You're welcome. I'll stop sharing here if I can find my screen.
Yeah, yeah, you can.
Just click on stop share for me.
Okay, let me see. Okay.
I'm off my screen.
Right, okay, good. I've done that for you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Once again, let us appreciate Dr. Yusuf. Mr. Granley, you can post and appreciate him. People are saying thank you to you. That was a fantastic one. And I can tell you, I have gained a lot. And again, this is going to form our what do you call it now? Our academic research material in the group, in the team, the Young Marketing Professionals Network Group. So thank you. All right, quickly, because of time, we want to be able to manage this time, and we will be moving on to the next speaker. Again, the conference is loaded. I tell you, it is loaded. And you don't want to miss any part of this conference. I can assure you of that. You don't want to miss any part, because before you say Jack, something new has happened. So we need to You're welcome back. Are you feeling the summit already? Okay. We want to make it a participatory summit, but some people will not manage their hand, they will not manage their mind. Okay, so that has put us on edge to be able to lock everybody, but I will create room so you can unmute yourself and let us just say thank you to Granley. Let's say thank you to Granley. Quickly unmute your mic before I finish.
Thank you, Granny.
Thank you, Mr.
Granny.
Granley. God bless you.
So much. God bless you.
We appreciate you.
Wonderful
We
presentation.
appreciate you. That's awesome.
We appreciate you. Thank you.
I
Thank you. Thank you.
appreciate
Thank
you.
you.
I learned a lot. Thank you so
Thank you, sir.
much.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. We appreciate everything.
Are you ready for more?
Appreciate your contribution.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you everyone. Let's go back to our corner.
Thank you.
Okay, so good. So we'll go back to our corner to rest and then we can proceed. Now, ideally, what we have planned for this session, and before we go on, let me say to us that we'll have a short moment of 2 minutes, and I want to be sure my friends in the house to brighten us up and get us set for the next session. We have the syndicate session, and ideally what we have planned is that we will go into the breakout session for areas you have indicated interest, but I think we've just made a little adjustment, and we're going to open all that session for everyone. So we will not break it. We will have everybody enjoy that session. So you may need to adjust your seat and be set. For now, we will be talking, the single session will be addressing each of the specialization or areas in marketing. All right, but before we do that, let me see. Is Damola in the house? Is Damola in the house? Damola, are you there? I'm looking for you. If you're in the house, you have just 2 minutes to do something for us, and then we go for the next break. Damola, are you here? I can find you. You may need to chat if you are in the house. Okay. All right. We just want to give you the experience as if you are in the hall. I mean, that's what we are trying to create for everyone. Okay, so I think Damola is not in the house yet, so when he comes around, we will have him. Okay, but at this time, we will have the first syndicate session speaker. And I can tell you, we have erudite speakers in the house. They are the la creme of the marketing words. And I can tell you, this is what you go to Harvard to learn. I'm sure my friend, Grant Lee and Dr. Yusuf can confirm to that. This is what you go to Lagos Business School to learn. But by the support of our erudite speakers, we are bringing this to you for free, FOC, free FOC. So adjust your seat and get set for the first syndicate session. And I will quickly invite Nathan to introduce our first syndicate session speaker. Nathan, are you there? I'm looking for you. If you are on, you can wave to me, Nathan. I'm looking for you online. Okay. I'm looking for Nathan. I thought I would have seen you. Can you unmute your mic? Okay, I will do that quickly. Oh yeah, unmute your mic. Where are you? Okay, good. Oh, wow.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Hold on, unmute yourself again. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. The syndicate class is beginning now, as we'll be having an icon in the profession, especially in the area of brand management. And this is the person of Mrs. Bolajoko Bayo Ajayi. Is a marketing veteran with 20 years experience, having worked with some of the world's biggest multinationals. She started her career at Guinness Nigeria PLC in 1999, a decision that heralded many years of exciting and rewarding customer service and marketing practice. She left Guinness Nigeria PLC in 2006 to join Coca-Cola Nigeria Limited. While in Coca-Cola, she drove the turnaround of the flavor portfolio and returned it to growth after many years of steady decline. She also launched different innovative activities on her brand and some of the leading to a replication and adaptation across other markets. She has managed global brands in the portfolio of Coca-Cola Company and Guinness, and nurture them to achieve sustainable growth by employing best classes, tools, and methodologies. Her work experience best practices and experience that has broadened her perspectives and thinking. She's passionate about people development and has served as a mentor and coach to many people at work and in a secular life. And after leaving Coca-Cola in 2015, she set up a private practice and currently manages Purple Pearl Consulting, a marketing consulting company providing full-fledged marketing services in strategy, development, and brand building, and as a marketeer, trains and facilitates workshops. And as you want to know, she's a graduate of Obafemi Awolowo University in 1997 with a second-class upper degree and holds an MBA from University of Lagos, Akoka. She also holds a Master of Marketing, UK. She's currently undertaking a doctorate degree in entrepreneurship. She's a member of many professional bodies, Chartered Institute of Marketing, UK, a fellow of National Institute of Marketing of Nigeria, member, Advertiser Practitioner Council of Nigeria, and Women in Management, Business and Public Services, Nigeria. Olajuko is a thoroughbred professional, coach, author, and speaker. Here, please join me as I welcome Mrs. Olajuko Bola Ajayi to take these parts. Power of brand equity and positioning non-COVID-19. Mrs. Bola Ajayi.
You're welcome, madam.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Thanks for that introduction. I'll just dive in straight and I'll be sharing my screen. Can you see my screen? Hello? Okay. Can Mr. let me know if you're seeing my screen. Yes, okay, I got confirmation. Thank you. And once again, thanks for having me. Today I'll be speaking about the power of brand equity and positioning beyond COVID-19. And before we go in, I just want to have a feel of how you perceive brands. And so if you could just individually in the chat box, just tell me your most admired brand and give a reason why you admire this brand. So your most admired brand, whatever it is, product, service, and why do you admire this brand? If you could just have a few in the chat box. Thank you. Okay, so I have Indomie. Let's keep it running. Toyota, Nike. Please tell me why you admire this brand. KFC. And we take about two more. Okay, Toyota for ruggedness. Coke, Mercedes because of simplicity of the design and efficiency. Okay, I think we'll just leave it at that. Thank you very much for that. I always like to start my brand management sessions with this kind of question, just to understand how you perceive brands and the reasons why you admire some of these brands. So we'll go in right away. I mean, a lot has been said about COVID-19, not to overemphasize the issues, but we know that it's been a monster to everybody, even to a little child. Everybody knows what COVID-19 is. And so when we look at it from the effects of COVID-19 on the world, it's affected every industry, every sector, almost every country. And I'm sure somebody had asked us last year if we thought there was anything that could put the world on its feet. I'm sure we would never have mentioned this. But that's the situation we find ourselves. And so the disruption has happened to our world as we knew it. And we know that with these disruptions, our world has changed. There's been a shift. And when a shift happens, no matter how hard you try to put things back in place, you would probably not get it perfectly aligned the way they were before. So it's very unlikely that we're going to have a situation where everything will return the way they were. It's not likely. And so we begin to talk about a normal. A lot of people talk about the new normal. So what does this mean for our own world in marketing? What is the new normal for us? We know that, let me start from the work from home. This was something that was novel. I mean, a few companies in Nigeria did this years ago, up till before the advent of COVID, but it was not quite pervasive. And a lot of employers were quite skeptical about working from home. But it's become a norm now. And when you work from home, it means that it's going to affect whoever's behavioral pattern. If you're home morning till night, Monday to Friday, it's almost unlikely that you're going to be watching out for outdoor sites. It's almost unlikely that you're going to be on the morning drive on radio. And a lot of behaviors are being changed as a result from home. It also would even impact your purchase pattern and all the rest of that. And so we have a work from home. The marketing industry has evolved. People are now putting more money, organizations are putting more money behind digital media. Yeah, digital media was there before the COVID issue. But in terms of the usage, both from a business brand perspective and from individuals, it's never been this high or this pervasive. We know that our sales channels have evolved. A long time ago, we were just the traditional media of buying things, and then when, channels, and when the likes of ShopRite and all the formal trade came in, we started imbibing that culture. But now a lot of things have moved online. I mean, if you can imagine that ice cream would move online, if you can imagine that buying pepper would move online, then you know that things have quite changed. So that's the world that we find ourselves. And so because of this, we know that there was some things that we knew before and what we're facing as things are. So before then, we had defined points of engagement for consumers. Brands to a large extent could actually determine the consumer journey. They could actually say this is what it is. But we know now that the changing convergent points, it's quite different from what we used to know. Competitive sets were quite clearly defined. People were competing across industries, across sectors, and all of that, or within sectors and within industry. But now we see that there's cross competition even on other channels. For example, if I'm going to be competing for the time, same time of airtime when it comes to digital presence with other brands, that's competition. It doesn't necessarily have to be the same product competition, but there's competition anyway. Prices are fairly stable before, they're unstable now. Path of purchase has changed. Marketing principles, yes, marketing principles are what we know them to be, but they're being challenged in some respects. And we know that what used to be essential now may not be essential to anymore. It may now become luxury to even some people. So that means that in terms of purchase decision, purchase power, they're changing. And of course, the entire industry is evolving and it's changing. So when we look at our new normal, it poses opportunities for us. There are also threats that it poses. But one thing that we know is that the disruption that has occurred as a result of this COVID-19 pandemic has affected our businesses. And some of that was touched on by the keynote speaker. In terms of experiential events, we used to gather huge numbers of people. Brands used to take pride in the number of people they could attract. But now that is no more, at least for some time. The opportunities now of how can the brand still engage people without necessarily, contravening the social or physical distance points. So consumers have become quite fluid. They become experimental. People behavior, there's no end time. It's like a bank in those days that had a slogan that the city never sleeps. So for consumers, it's almost like they just never sleep. They are online, they're doing this, they're doing that. A lot of trails, a lot of information being given out by them, that the consumers online, that brands can tap into, which is an opportunity in itself. It's quite overwhelming what's happening in the digital space. And so we know that habits have changed from a consumption point of view. And so brand also needs to begin to look in that respect in terms of how they can reshape strategies to be able to engage with consumers. Competitors, I spoke about that earlier. And of course, there is also the issue around strategy realignment, returns on investment, returns on marketing, on individual, and how marketing accounts for what is spent. Okay, so I just want to give that background in terms of where we are and how we got there. And so I'm just going to go a little bit further into the topic of the day, which is the power of brand equity and positioning beyond COVID-19. And I want to start by this points. Now, when we talk about brand, I'm sure we know that a brand is not what it calls itself, but a brand is what consumers call it. So a brand can say, this is what I am, but at the end of it is who the consumer says it is, that brand is. And so if we have that understanding, then brand positioning then answers that question, why am I? Why am I in existence? And so I'll go on to describe or discuss what brand positioning is. And so when we talk about brand positioning, it's in the mind of the consumer. The consumer forms a place in his or her mind where they will place a brand. So it's that unique and distinctive place that a brand occupies in the mind of the target market. And it all starts with the company or the brand itself putting together some strategy work to say, this is how we want to position ourselves. And in doing that, they look at three main constructs. They look at what the consumer needs are, of course, based on research and insights. They look at their own ability as a company to deliver that and possibly differentiate and surpass what competitors can do. And they also ask a reason, why do they need to believe us? There has to be a reason to believe. And so that's how a consumer, brand is formed, a statement is formed. But at the end of the day, the consumer then needs to take on their own placement in terms of how to position the brand. And so for a brand, the good news and the sweet spot will be when the consumer sees their brand the way they want the consumer to see their brand. So it's really that specific way in which the consumers place the brand using emotions, using traits, using feelings, and some sentiments they are attached to it. Like I personally have some sentiment towards some brand. Sometimes people will ask you, why do you take this brand or use this brand? You try to justify it, or you just know it goes beyond the physical or the functional attributes that you can mention. It's probably evolved into the emotional part of it. And so it's about differentiating the brand from what competitors can offer. And so I'm just going to ask another question. I like to have interactive sessions, so please pardon me. So when you see these two brands, and you can pick either of them, you don't have to do the two. When you see these two brands, what comes to your mind from a positioning perspective? Let's just do that in 1 minute. What comes to your mind when you see Apple and Facebook?
Your mic is muted. We can't hear you.
Hello? Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, I'll take it back. Where do I go back to? Pardon me. I'll take it back.
Apple and Facebook.
Just go ahead.
Okay.
Apple and Facebook.
All right. So I got a lot of input in terms of what your positioning of these two brands are. And a lot of people were talking about sophistication, class, and luxury for Apple, and for Facebook, social connection, connecting the world, and all of that. And so I wanted to read to you, and I'm sure you're actually read it on the screen, so I might not read that again, in terms of what Apple positioning statement is from their own perspective. But consumers have taken the Apple brand based on a lot of things that they've done over time and placed it in their mind in a way here that says, this is the cluster that I place Apple or Facebook, as the case may be. So before we go on into brand equity, I'll just probably do one more because of time. When you see a color like this, what brand comes to your mind? Oh, sorry, you saw that, so I'm going to miss that. Let's do another one. What brand comes to your mind when you see this?
Anakin.
So that we keep it
Glow.
Okay, can you type it in the box?
It's not green.
So,
Glue is not green and white.
thank you for that. So what I'm going to do, can we just mute ourselves, please? Thank you. So what I'm trying to do here is just to try and take you to a place where you've associated something with a particular brand. And myself being a brand person, I do that a lot. I mean, every color means something to me. When I see a color, even if it's a child wearing a t-shirt, a brand comes to my mind. And that's the power of association. And that comes from building brand equity. So we'll go on. When you see this picture, what comes to your mind? Please put it in the chat box. What comes
KFC.
to your mind?
KFC.
All right. And so that's KFC. But funny enough, I showed this picture when I was presenting the slide to somebody, and he couldn't place it because typically they only see KFC in this construct. But it's just to tell you the strength of a brand in the mind of the people. So we will define brand equity. The value of a well-known brand that conjures positive or negative mental and emotional association. So it means that when we talk about brand equity, it's not always positive. Some brands are associated with negative brand equity, and it can be positive. But of course, every brand wants to be in the positive realm of things. So it has to be mental and emotional association. And so when we talk about brand equity, there are a couple of things that make up the brand equity that come together to form that brand equity in the mind of people. So the brand awareness, the perceived quality of the brand, association, we just did the task on association, brand image, the brand identity, and loyalty to the brand. These are the main constructs of brand equity, and every brand wants to build on this. And the journey is actually depicted like this. And so this is like a pyramid of brand equity, how consumers start their journey and how they progress to the place where ideally every brand wants to be in the life of their consumers. So it starts from saliency, which is about awareness. How much do people know about your brand? How much are you telling them? Who are you? What is your identity? You begin to build awareness around that brand and deepen that awareness amongst people. And then from that point, it moves on to the second level, which is about performance and imagery. And performance speaks specifically to things about the product reliability, the product's durability and serviceability. So at this point, it's about, is it a durable? So if I'm buying a t-shirt, Will I wear that t-shirt and the second day is torn? Those are the kind of things that people look at in terms of identifying feelings. Remember that we said brand equity is about the feeling, positive or negative. Imagery is also how they begin to look at your brand and how you project the brand. The third level of things, it's about, so I'm just trying to move on because of our time. The third level, we're talking about judgment and feelings. So when we talk about judgment and feelings, what does that mean? So judgment, people are placing the brand in buckets. They are trying to say, this is what this brand is. And of course, we know it's based on experience. So we're talking about the quality of that product. We're talking about credibility. Does the brand say what? Does the brand walk the talk? It's about trust. It's about how people begin to build credibility around your brand. It's about superiority of that brand against another brand. They begin to make comparisons and compare and say, what's the point of differentiation? And of course, we're talking of feelings, emotional feeling. When they see your brand, what comes to their mind? Does it depict a feeling of warmth? Does it depict excitement? Is this friendly? Those are the kind of things that the feeling evokes in consumers. And of course, the last place which everybody really, wants to start to be in is that place of deep loyalty and commitment to the brand. At this point, people are actually saying, this is my something else. It's really about that sense, that deep sense of attention the brand commands. And at this point, consumers willingly of their own become advocates for the brand. And so that's really the journey from a brand equity point of view. And it's an enduring journey. It's not I've reached the peak and I'm satisfied and I'm okay. People drop off. Like I said earlier, have been point to game point. So it's really something to keep in mind. And so when we talk about brand equity, it's basically how people can actually say, I can pay double the price of this product because it's now, I'm not just seeing it as a product, I'm seeing it as a brand and it enjoys equity. That's why people will place a premium on Starbucks coffee and see the other coffee, possibly the same quality, but just see it as just one other. That's the power of brand equity. And so trying to link positioning with brand equity, it brings us to a place where we see that positioning, from what we said earlier, is what the company wants, is the deliberate effort, is an activity that the company controls. And by virtue of that, they want consumers to see it that way. And so when consumers take that and the outcome they bring out is the equity, which is the value and the premiumness that the consumers will now place on that brand. So positioning, actually a good position, a strong positioning leads to the brand being able to start building the right kind of equity for the brand. And so when we bring this, relate all of, I try to give a foundation so that we can put all the construct together as we begin to evolve. So when we talk about COVID, we talk about brand equity, and the topic is the power of brand equity and positioning post. But it's important to look at that same brand equity and what brands are doing within COVID. And so people at this point are not just looking at brand just from the functionality of it, but they're looking at brands that have a voice, looking at brands that are authentic. Yes, we know that you're a good product, but at this time, we don't want you to start telling us about how good you are. We just want you to empathize with us. We want you to just feel what we're feeling. We want you to just use your heart instead of your head, at this point. This is what consumers are looking for at the points, in which they are now during this COVID. And a lot of that, because also a lot of things are happening online. There's a lot of conversations happening online in terms of brands that are staying through today, brands that are not staying through today. People are respecting and valuing brands that have identified with this situation, and of course, castigating brands that haven't. And so it's quite important, any brand that wants to succeed post-COVID must also think of what they are doing during COVID, and how they can be relevant to their consumers at this point. And so, like I said, consumers are watching, they are looking, and they're looking at how organizations and brands are being purpose-led rather than being And so that trust that they built for the brand is what would save that brand post-COVID. I just want to give a few examples in terms of some brands that have stayed through. And like I said, people are watching. So some brands have, they actually came through for consumers during this COVID. A lot of brands for your company said money, but there are some things that from an emotional perspective kind of resonate well with people. One of them is Louis Vuitton, ordinarily a very premium and luxury brand, production line, and uses that same line to produce hand sanitizer. And this was at the time when hand sanitizer was like gold and luxury worldwide. But they turned it off, produced it, and gave it out free in France. Another one that struck me was on Ford Motors. Stopped production line, partnered with a few other healthcare industries and produced respirators and ventilators. So if you were following the COVID story, you remember that was a big issue when these all things had shortage of respirators and ventilators. And of course, one other thing I want to call out is Coca-Cola, because at this point, people just want some reassurance. They want just to be, given hope that all is not lost. And Coca-Cola actually came through in this respect. And I'll just play a video very soon to show us what they did. So I'll just quickly play that. As far as I'm concerned, I think that was a very strong message of hope to the entire human race. And of course, we know that locally in Nigeria, a lot of companies also came through and supported in one way or the other in just making their voice heard and also lending support to individuals and to the country at large. So that's brands that are listening and being sensitive. But of course, some other brands took advantage, and I called out to the one on my right. You can see that ordinarily, without even looking at the brand, that's a Dettol and sanitizer bottle. But they took it and adapted it to look like their own brand. And this is actually a Singaporean brand that sells data. and they try to take advantage of people's receptiveness to such message and for their own personal gain. And of course, they were called out. Another brand that was called out was Amazon. Amazon, of course, being the most valuable brand in the world, set up a trust for their staff, especially the ones that are not permanent staff. Yes, they put $25 million in the trust, but they also asked people to donate, and people took that, quite in a bad way. And of course, the backlash wasn't interesting for them. So basically, it's about building trust and building a strong emotional relationship during a time of crisis. And that becomes the foundation that the brand can thrive on when it goes in post-COVID. And so we're going to be talking about the power of brand equity post-COVID. And what would that brand be able to gain as a result of the strength that they're coming in through? So we've looked a bit around what is changing, and I'm just trying to pick out a few here to say that priorities have changed or are going to be changing. Organizations are reworking their strategies. Competition is going to be stiffer because there's the same space for the same people. Attitudes are changing. We know that new habits have been formed. And as a result of that, organizations and brands need to go in with the survivor instinct. And so I'm going to be basing the rest of the presentation on using this analogy. And I actually saw it's a model that was analyzed by somebody, and that the credit is on the screen. But I liked it. And for people that are familiar with the stock market, you know that there's always either it's bearish or bullish. And I kind of related that to marketing. And so for the bears, they are going to, post-COVID, be fighting for survival. They're cutting costs. They're probably laying down staff. They're trying to cut back on everything. Marketing budget is probably going to be reduced. Return on investment is so important. If you're not assuring of sales, there won't be any money provided. Marketing will be in the back burner for such organization or brand because they're reacting to what is happening. The bulls are the ones that have built a strong foundation. The bulls are the ones that are ready to face the headwind head-on, and they're the ones that are ready to take on the opportunities that are available. They're not saying that the industry or the landscape is easy, but they're saying we are ready to go. And the last category are the monks. And the monks are the ones that have looked at their business model and telling themselves, no, we've not gotten it right. No, this has not worked and it will not work going forward. So they're realigning and trying to see how they make things happen going forward. But you know that when we talk about post-COVID, it's not really, it's a time where you're eating, a very congested and saturated market in terms of people, competition and all of that. So it's really about the strong, eating the ground strong, and they're the ones that will be able to just keep running as they eat the ground. And it will be a time for them to also cash on what they built before. But of course, it's also quite important for such brands to know that whatever they do, whatever strategy, whatever thing they begin to do, cannot be at the expense of consumers or their customers, because these are the people that would really start with them and make their brands, kind of survive. So it can be, we're increasing price, and it doesn't really matter what consumers feel. It's not a time to say that. It's a time to actually be receptive to the consumers' demand and their needs. And so, for the power of brands that already have it coming post-COVID will be the power they will have over competition. And it's about the edge that they will have over generic brands or even their well-known competitors. Because remember that when we talk about position, it's about that key strong differentiator that they have. And they'll be able to leverage this post-COVID and drive it hard. We also talk about communicating value. And value here is really about the value that the consumer places, because consumers at the end of it will be the ones to say, this is the value of A versus B. This is the value I place on this versus that. And so it's about the preference of one over another. And that's what the power of strong brand equity would do post-COVID. It's an opportunity for organizations that possibly have a higher price point. If they have that higher price point with a strong brand equity, they can justify it. It's really about how consumers perceive value. It's about perception of value. And whatever brand differentiating factor that they have can also be a strong tactic to be able to drive growth, because people will see that they are worth it. You know, there's a consumer measure that we used to have, which is say what it costs. So consumers will say, yes, it's probably this amount, but it's worth what it costs. And then, of course, loyalty, the highest, the peak of that pyramid. It's one thing that brands would enjoy if they have it post-COVID. That deep bond, that deep relationship, that deep affection. When your consumers already are ambassadors for you and they are out there speaking, it's about the distributors already trust you. I remember that when we're talking about that pyramid, trust is not just end in a day, it's a journey. And that journey includes what they've done over time, especially during the COVID period. Is it a brand that I can trust? Is it a brand that I feel that emotional connection to? So before a brand can come to that place of loyalty, there's a deep level of emotional connection that they already enjoy with the consumers. And of course, just the same way we know what voice is that. If I walk into a room, even if it's in darkness, my children will pick out my voice. And so that's the same thing with brands. When they've related with their consumers, when they've engaged with them, when they've played a relevant role in their lives, definitely when the crisis is over, their voice is familiar to them. They sound authentic. They don't sound fake. They have a story to tell. They can actually say, we're in this journey together. We'll face this crisis together. Now we're here. How do we go forward? So it's a right time also for such brands to be able to leverage the audience that they have using the right platform to engage them. And retention, you know, retention is not just because I bought yesterday, I have to buy today. No. There are times that a brand faces a crisis, even post-COVID, it might just be another type of crisis. It might be a blunder that a brand has committed, but because they have such brand equity, their consumers would actually, you know, find it so easy to forgive them and easy to go on with them. And that's the power of a strong brand equity. And of course, we talk about emotional connection. It's something that needs to be, the brand needs to continually leverage on and fulfill and satisfy in their journey and in their experience, the relationship with their consumers. So the brand promise needs to keep evolving into an emotional need that needs to be satisfied. Strong brand equity and positioning allows the brand to innovate and expand. You cannot innovate on a weak brand or on a poorly designed brand or in a brand that has poor distribution. Everything has to be right. So for brand equity, really, it's about the time for that brand. When you have a strong brand equity, it's about the time for that brand to actually continue to expand into new markets, into new categories that ordinarily, you know, another brand that is weak would not be able to do. But because of the strength that they have, they can actually enjoy that luxury and move on to new extensions, to new innovation, and the consumers will be open and receptive to that. So I'll just conclude by saying that, you know, when you have that strong positioning and a strong brand equity, it's really a very, very good combination, a sweet spot that everybody wants to be in, going into the headwinds of COVID. And it's not like it's going to be, nobody knows, we're talking about new normal post-COVID, are we entered post-COVID, or are we still in the COVID period? We don't even know. But the question to ask ourselves is, a brand that is strong will, I mean, the point to note is that a brand that is strong will probably do better than one that is not strong going into this period. But at the same time, we know that it's not a time for such brands to just think we have arrived. So I'm just trying to revisit the aggregates of brand equity. So for such brands, they also need to look at this again and say, how can we reinforce things, you know, and ensure that we continue to be relevant in the lives of our people. And for brands that are, for example, the monks, the people that are just about to get to that point of realization, it's also a time for them to begin to build on this so that they can get to a point of enjoying high brand equity. And so brand equity is subjective. It's based on the consumer perception and the market perception. But it's left to that brand to see how they can ensure that they find themselves in the right place with consumers. And so it's also important, like I said, to keep an eye on the brand equity for a brand. Post-COVID, to begin to measure how the brand is performing. There are consumer metrics that needs to be measured, the financial metrics are the book value, and that's what is reported most of the time when they say the most valuable brand in the world. You know, the strength metrics, the recall, we talk about top of mind awareness, and a whole lot of consumer strength metrics that I mentioned. And it may also be a good time also as things evolve to begin to look at the positioning to be sure that they're still staying through to that position that is set for themselves. And I think that would be the final slide for me. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much. That was awesome. We are so happy to have you, madam. Thank you. And
thank you, sir.
We want to assure you that the lesson from here is mind-blowing, and we can't exhaust it because there will be some discussion following up to this. Okay, so again, you will allow us to take the next speaker, then we can have, I hope you are taking our questions down, and then we can be able to have all of the questions, as soon as we are set. All right, so we just want to take in all of the discussions, and then we can have the questions section once we are set. Okay, we will go on a short break, and then when we are back, we will continue where we stop. All right. Thank you. Remember, we are young marketing professionals, and we are being tutored by the professionals. All right, so you need to understand why we need to do it our way, which is also a professional way, and we need to have the best in doing it in a professional way. All right, so once again, we want to say thank you, madam, for that session, and that was awesome. Okay, we aren't done yet. There is a few more lectures to go, and then we can go into the engagement. And I hope we are ready. Okay, let me also release us to make some shares here, so you can unmute your mic. Let's hear your voice. Are we together?
Yes, sir.
Are we catching fun?
Absolutely.
While learning?
Oh, yes.
Yes, we are.
All right.
Yeah,
Making a lot of
good ones, eh?
Okay, thank you. All right. Okay, fantastic. Okay, so let me ask.
Wonderful presentation.
Okay, is Damola in the house? I want him to just brighten up, the moment. Damola, if you are in the house, chat me. When I see you, I'll pick you. All right. So, okay, now we'll go to the next one. And before we go to the, the icing on the cake for the day and all of that, we still have two more, and I want you to adjust. Do some take some medical break. Take a walk around your office. Don't be glued to your system. It's very important. Don't forget to stand and wash your hands. Observe all the precautions for pandemic, for the COVID-19. It's essential. Don't be carried away with the lectures. We need to get it right and be fine with ourselves. Are we together? All right. So we need to observe all the precautions because this is an international conference. And when you are in the crowd, make sure you use your face mask. All right. So, okay. So we will be going ahead now. The next speaker, I'm trying to identify your handle. If you are on, please chat me, privately chat me so that I can pick that. But to introduce the next speaker, I want to call on one of our, member in the house to introduce our next speaker. I'm sure she's ready. Okay, so Damilola, you can go ahead.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Damilola, and I want to start by wishing everyone a happy new month. And I pray it's going to be a fruitful month for everyone. Without further ado, I would like to introduce the next speaker, which is ought to be Mr. Lakwe Omoye, but it's quite unfortunate he's not here at the moment. But his representative will be speaking to us today about experiential marketing. And his name is Mr. Lawrence Unwa-Owa. Mr. Lawrence is a business director with Nitro 123, Nitro 121, a leading marketing communication organization in Nigeria. Mr. Lawrence holds a bachelor's degree in statistics and a postgraduate degree in marketing. He has over 17 years experience in marketing communication across various disciplines, and presently he has a and experiential department. Mr. Lawrence will be representing Mr. Lakwe today, Mr. Lakwe Omoye, because he's under the weather. And the next voice you'll be hearing now is Mr. Lawrence. Sir, good afternoon, sir. Are you in the house?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone.
It's nice having you with us today. You're doing great. Thank you so much, sir. Sir, it's your turn. You can now address the house now, sir.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Good morning or evening to anybody in any other part of the world that is listening in. Thank you for having me. Mr. Lakwe is unavoidably absent for obvious reasons. I will be taking you through his presentations, his slides, which I would start sharing any moment from now. But before I do, I would like to say, if you didn't get your groove on when Yusuf, Dr. Lee Grant, and Madam Bola Joko presented, then you must have missed a very interesting part of it, because what I'm just going to be doing is giving you nuggets of everything they've said in a different way. So without much ado, I'd like to start sharing my slide. Can you guys see my slide, please?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. I wouldn't take much of your time. I know that time has been spent. You have gotten a lot from the previous speakers, and I was happy to, catch a bit of their session. And like I said, it's just going to be nuggets of this. Just to correct the lady, my name is not Lawrence. My name is Cyril Moha. And I'll be taking you guys through leveraging experiential marketing through COVID. Again, just to give you an idea of what experiential marketing is, and I'm sure most of you must have had one or two experience about it. Experiential marketing is just simply, you understand, how the brands or the marketing immerse people into brand experience. What you get from the various brands, what kind of imprint, how long-lasting memories of the brand you have. There's a regular saying that people may forget what you say to them, but they will not forget how you make them feel. That is what experiential marketing is all about. And that is what we're going to talk about today in terms of leveraging a bit of this. My slides is not much, so I'm not going to take so much of your time, but it's definitely going to be worth our while. We're not going to talk too much. I'm not going to dwell too much on this slide. Even a 2-year-old or a year-old child knows what COVID is all about as we speak. And it is clear that we all have been impacted in one way or the other. But the results of the pandemic is definitely having a toll on general business. And all the brands are beginning to reevaluate how they are positioning themselves. And I'm happy that Bola Joko did speak a lot about that. And one of the most hard hit is marketing communication, because once you go into these serious issues of oh, we're not having enough money, we don't have enough money to spend, the first thing that happens is marketing communication suffers for it. And that means that, you know, we have to reevaluate how we do our kind of work. And while this is doing, the brands are beginning to look for more ways that they will begin to push, you know, content, begin to relate with their consumers and targets. And that is all we're going to be discussing, or how we're going to be looking at it today. Again, business of advertising, I did mention this a lot, we're evaluating. So I will just go to the next slide, which is a very key part of the presentation. So key questions you should be asking yourself now is beyond brand communication. How does a brand engage customers to promote spending on brand's product? How do we do that? Okay, you all will agree with me. If you used to think your usual conventional way of advertising, you need to think again, because if you live in Lagos, Nigeria, or places where the pandemic had been affected, you'll find out that all of a sudden, all the billboards have gone blank, including the digital ones. They've just gone blank. So you also need to be thinking beyond how, what else, what is the next thing for brands? How would brands be able to engage with their target consumers? How does brand promote the product or services amidst COVID crisis? How do you promote it when COVID is taking a toll on everyone? You need to also ask your first, or address the concerns of health, wellness, community, as well as fulfillment of personal need. How do I support my consumers or customers during this period of time? Understand is that people are struggling to navigate this new challenge. It's more rampant for us in this part of the world because working from home is relatively a new concept to many people. Nigeria is a community that is bubbling with activities. We have one Owambe or the other. We have one party, one event, one show, one activation, one activity happening at a point in time. And all of a sudden, all this came to a halt. How do we begin to make our brand engage beyond those physical things that we usually do? Experiential is what we should be considering. And in doing this, you have to be looking at, how do I get all my solutions online? How do I get online? How do people begin to see get experiences from what we do how, as a brand, and then begin to engage them like that? You will agree with me that the incidence of online purchase and purchasing and delivery to your doorstep has increased tremendously in the last couple of months. That could be a touch point that we also need to look at as well. So the question is, how do I engage customers in this new era? First, find a way to make your digital more human. It is not about putting your banners or putting visuals and putting communications and saying, look, I'm on Instagram and the rest of them. How does it engage with your target customer? How do you embed human interaction into your visual channels? Instead of your regular call, chat box, and the rest of them, how do consumers get to reach you if they have concerns about your brand? How do you reward loyalty within this period? How do I go about, in those days, you know, when you run before the COVID, you say, oh, if you buy this, so you get a coupon, you redeem your coupon and that. How can we turn that into a virtual, how can you turn that into a virtual coupon, for example? We need to make interesting and tangible content. Today, I was happy that the last speaker said something about customer is king. Today, they'll tell you content is king. A lot of people will tell you if you have the right content, you get the right customer. So go for the content. How do we introduce things like gamification? Knowing fully well that people are staying at home right now. A lot of them are looking for things, bored as it may be, looking for content that will push them. how can we begin to develop gamification or things like games that will engage with the customer, but yet still drive you back into, liking the brand. And this will help the target audience engage more with you virtually via events and increase interaction. Because with that, you get to have a lot more interaction with them. Augmented reality is something that is growing in other parts of the world. It's grown, but in our market is beginning to go. Virtual reality is also doing that. Social media sharing, influencer marketing, we all know about it, but how effective is your influential marketing? How can one person, one influencer, be a bastion to push my brand communication rather than just sharing the skits, the fun stories and the rest of them? How can I convert those fun stories into actual purchase? And of course, don't capitalize on the crisis, as it were. COVID is here, it will go. Okay, this is not the first pandemic where the world is facing. There have been pandemics before this one. This one will definitely go. But how will your brand innovate and move on? That's the most important question we need to ask ourselves. So I'll take you through 1 or 2, 3 slides. Like I said, I don't have so many slides. I don't have so many, but I'll show you 1 or 2 things that brands and businesses can begin to leverage. Augmented reality and visual reality is going to be the next thing. I mean, if you have seen what Dulux, that in itself is an experience. So if I want to paint, if I want to see how the 4 corners of my house will look like if I'm going to repaint the house, all I need to do is use the Dulux app and then put it across the home, and I pick a color, and then we'll look at it with your spouse or your friends or whatever, and you agree. And the next thing, you're going to buy a Dulux experiential. Okay, so we need to begin to look at things like this. And that's what the essence of this picture is trying to paint and show to us. We'll talk about touchless experience and the rest of them. We cannot go to the cinemas anymore. We cannot even have our regular Owambes and parties and the rest of them anymore. Just last week, Thursday or thereabout, I think a major bar in California, because they cannot do in dining, they did an outdoor. Now you just buy and pick up and you go. So what they did was create something like this, brought a screen outside your parking lot. You order, while you're there waiting for your order to come, you're able to watch a movie. And what then happens is that instead of you just buying and leaving, a lot of people now bought and stayed there and were watching film, but in your car. Now, if word goes around town, and it is going around town because it was carried on CNN, that look, you can actually do this and then in your car have your meal and then still have opportunity to, watch your favorite movie right there. That's experiential. I will go to that place, order food from that restaurant, and then, of course, I will be able to watch my film. And they'll bring the meal or whatever to you in the car. You have your meal, watch your movie, and then you're on your go. That is one way a brand can, begin to leverage or take advantage of experiential marketing. Another, you have a drive-through events, and this is most likely going to come very time soon. If space permits in places like Lagos that is choked up, you have drive-in stores and the rest of them. Permit me to say the KFC in Nigeria is already doing this, but I mean, I know that they have 1 or 2 outlets where you can drive in, buy and go. But with the new reality in town, most businesses will have to be looking at a drive-in kind of thing. You drive in, make your order, pick it up, and then you move out. So we as business people, we also need to be looking at this as well, particularly for the restaurant and pharmacies as we go. So the likes of Health Plus, Med Plus, and the rest of them needs to be looking at this. Motion tracking initiative, moving away from the touch screen surfaces and all the rest of them. You can now actually have experiences and devices within malls like this that you can actually have interaction with without necessarily having to touch them. And as we move along, you see some of these things happening at your ATMs, your soap dispensers, even at your airports and the rest of them, there will be something like a touchless script happening all around. Your brand can take advantage of this to become that brand and, you know, is sensitive to the situation and the environment as we, you know, navigate this new normal that we are all in. I talked about influencer marketing. I cannot overemphasize it. The truth of the matter is more and more of brands are going to rely on influencer marketing as we move on. And the reason is simple. We will need these influencers to push our brands because of the number of followership and engagement they have, the reach that we can reach with the reach that brands can get through influencers in the market can never be overemphasized. So I'll give you an example. Somebody like a Don Jazzy, who is first a music artist, and then of course he is an advocate for human rights and you know, and doing other stuff that he does in that light. You having him as your brand ambassador, and again, they are not necessarily big people like him and smaller people who also make sense. Having somebody like that advocate for your brand is very, very important. So businesses and brands are going to need to look at this because they are going to lead some of the communication and content. You know, they can generate content, they can build content for you, and at the same time post it where they can get that organic reach. Virtual events. I'm happy to say that one of our brands is actually doing this in Nigeria presently in partnership with the likes of Coca-Cola and the rest of them. So you cannot visit the clubs anymore, but you can, within your home, create your own party in-house. And all you need to do is just, you know, log on to the portal or have your pay TV, and then you can have party happening, and then you can stream online. You can see what you're doing right from your home and the rest of them. More and more of the brands and businesses need to begin to leverage things like this as we move on. And one other idea we talked about this morning with my team when we were having our conversation is how can we begin to look at things like family time within the home. So there were old films or old sitcoms that were really, really important in those days that people looked at and are very still relevant in this time, like The Good Times, the Jeffersons and the rest of them could just be something that would, you know, bring that necessary bond, you know, in the house. And then stations, TV stations or pay TVs can begin to look at having specific channels like this to leverage and sell content through. I already mentioned this already. There's a Turn Up Friday that Pepsi does. And then of course there's an Owambe Saturday, which the likes of Indomine is partnering on. We need to begin to look at this as touch points and things that businesses should be leveraging. We need to just look at those things that are key to our target audience. What is their behavioral pattern and how we can help push our brands and content in their face and they begin to warm up to us. So advantages of digital experiential marketing allows for more people to participate across the nations, across continents, across everywhere. You are, as long as you have the right content, you have the right platform, you are able to push across gender and generations. So it allows us to do that across continents and the rest of them. You're not restricted anymore. Of course, our clients are looking for cost saving and waste. How do I minimize this? I can't do this, I can't do that. But what can I do that would have more organic growth for me and my business? And I think experiential is one route that we should explore. Of course, it provides you that measurable data. I can organically sit here and tell you how many people is logged on to this webinar as we speak. Same way you can get the same traction for experiential. You can record data and you can get leads as well. That will be my presentation. I told you guys it was going to be a nugget. I hope I have been able to push that across to you all. Thank you for listening. Hello, can anyone hear me? Hello.
Apologies. I believe you can hear me now. Okay, sorry, it's a bit of a technical issue here. You know, when you pack all the network in Nigeria, you are still having a challenge. We will get better. We believe in our country, and we believe we'll get better. So if you are hearing me, please let me just know if you are hearing me. If you can hear me, can you hear me? Okay, so if you are hearing me, let me know, please.
Yeah,
we
can
hear you. Okay, so again, sorry.
Yes, we can hear you now.
Thank you. Thank you.
You are welcome back.
Yeah, from my
Welcome back.
Thank you all. Thank you all. Yeah, let's go ahead. That was awesome, Mr. Suri. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you for that session. I believe we have people that they've got questions, and we will just move on to the last for today, for this set of syndicate session before we move back to the general session. And then we can take all the questions together. Sorry for the technical hiccup. Like I did mention at the beginning, I have about 7 internet networks, and let me count them. I have M10, I have Glo, I have Airtel, I have 9 mobile, what you call it. Then I have the Spectranet, I have Smile, and Entel. So you can imagine. So we are well loaded and ready for this session. But you know, again, our country is going somewhere, and we strongly believe in our country. We will get better. So just for a moment, let's just have this short break. Remember, we are marketers, all right? So we are going on. How can you respond? So who's going next? Alex Gomari. I saw him just now. Ryan. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Are you still in the summit? Is it making no sense for you? We are here together, and we don't want to have information overload, but I can assure you, we are learning, unlearning, and relearning, and we are set to go. So quickly, all right, so we'll go for the next lecture, and then we'll be fine. To take us and introduce our next speaker will be Kachi. Kachi, are you ready?
Yes, I am. Hello, everyone. Okay, our next speaker is Mr. Alex Goma. He's the Managing Director, CEO of Ground Zeroes Limited, a USC group. He's an experienced business leader with over 20 years experience building people, customers, and brands. What else can we ask for? He has worked with Procter & Gamble, with BAT, Guinness, and with PZ Cousins in Africa. He is passionate about helping young Africans, and especially young marketers, achieve their true potentials in academics and secular career. So we are really in safe hands. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Mr. Alex Goma. Sir, you can take over the platform.
All right, thank you, Kachi. Good afternoon, everyone, and good day to the rest of the world, wherever you're.
I said, slow down. You don't have much information. No.
Wherever you're joining us from. It's my pleasure to share with you just a few nuggets on how you manage sales through the COVID-19 pandemic. What I'm going to do is just in a couple of minutes talk about the impacts of the pandemic, how it's affected the world, the impact on sales, and initiatives to try and recover and drive sales post-COVID, and then just sort of summarize. So I think this will take us 30 minutes or less for us to do that. I'm sure a lot of the other speakers have spoken about what has happened since COVID, but the key thing and the impact is coming from the fact that it has resulted in lockdowns and restrictions of movement for consumers. And also, as a result of this lockdown and stoppage of movement, disruptions in supply chains. You know, there have been stay-at-home orders limiting access to consumer channels where consumers will go. Business processes, premises have been shut down, supply chains have been shut down or affected or slowed down. And actually, a number of us have had to start to operate and work out of home. And what has happened to sales as a result of this is either due to the restriction, all right, or the disruption in the movement of physical goods, a number of categories have seen their sales drop or actually see a number of their sales move to online channels. And the drop in sales vary depending on the category that you belong in. So if you look at FMCG, certain categories might have seen an uplift because during this period, food businesses were allowed to continue. Cleaning, especially hand washes, personal care products, seen some growth. But areas like hospitality shut down, travel shut down, finance to a limited extent, except those, of course, who have developed technology, and therefore a lot of the businesses have moved online. And I think this has also thrown up the challenge or the limitations of some of the services that we see from providers, especially those that are using technology. It's still absurd that there are certain things you have to go and do physically in your bank, which you could have done online, right? And so when the banks reopened, it was a challenge to see the number of queues that you found outside of the banks. And of course, the tech businesses, especially those that offered the foundation or access or tools to be able to leverage the challenge that COVID has given us. It also meant certain channels were shut down. So depending on the categories, bars, restaurants, right, supermarkets, okay, to a certain extent were limited. And so created certain challenges, okay? Management of customer finances, arrangements where you have credit facilities. Sometimes you have to visit a customer face-to-face to be able to manage and collect your credit. So some of these things were affected, and disruptions in supply chain. Shipping for companies that relied on raw materials coming out of Europe or out of Asia. The lead times to get those things in here, of course, increased, which meant that there was a risk of out of stocks if you didn't have inventory. Of course, also the fact that certain areas of the chain, so even though certain businesses were allowed to operate, the sad thing is some of the auxiliary or support businesses that support them initially were not allowed. So even though you were a food business, but your packaging partner was not allowed to operate, you probably didn't have access to the packaging material that you need to put your products in them. And even some of the services, okay, you had a breakdown in your plants, the spare parts stores or the spare part dealers were not open for you to be able to supply that. So there are different areas where the impact hits different companies. And also in terms of how you manage field people and how you manage your team in terms of customer coverage, sales coverage, and also coaching, right? So a lot of this moved online, and the level of efficiency or effectiveness of how you manage customers online, how you manage your sales team online, because it's very easy for a salesperson to put a screensaver and tell you that I'm in the customer's shop or I'm here while I'm sleeping at home. So these are some of the challenges and the way sales were impacted as a result of the restriction in movements, the lockdown, and the disruptions in the supply chain. Now, to manage some of these things, right, there are a number of things that have happened. And one is the impact of technology and the use of technology and the shift in consumer channels. So for a number of categories, we saw sales move online, all right? However, you still have to do the last mile. So depending on where you are, right, it was more efficient than other parts of the country. So for places like Abuja, places like Lagos, places like Port Harcourt, where you had services already providing, logistics partners already providing the last mile distribution, it was very, very easy to latch on But there are certain parts of the country where these services do not exist. And so despite the fact that you had the opportunity to be able to, for example, serve or sell food or deliver food to people, the guys to deliver this did not exist. So I think what is critical for people who manage sales is to understand that your coverage of channels have to be adjusted to recognize the shift or lack of access to physical channels for consumers, depending on the category that you operate in. Some categories have been in advance. To buy an airline ticket, for example, you really didn't need to go to an office to do that. Yes, if there are slight issues, you could handle, but actually even those issues that require face-to-face can be handled offline and therefore do not require that. So there are certain businesses that were in advance, and basically what has happened with COVID is that, okay, that will accelerate further adoption of technology to be able to drive sales. But the critical thing is to always remember there's a fundamental in sales, right? You fish where the fish are. So basically, your selling, your coverage should always follow where the consumers are going. Now, one of the things that has happened over time is we tend to stay fixed to channels, either because we like the particular channels or because it's easier for us to deal with those channels. And sometimes we lose opportunities by not recognizing that the consumer is already shifting away from that channel, and therefore our coverage models have to shift in line with the consumers. I think it's one of the biggest lessons that we have to take out of how we manage post-COVID. Just to go back to the fundamental and remember that you fish where the fish are. Our coverage of sales channels should be following the pathway of the consumers. If we keep our eyes open on the external market, understand where the consumer is shifting, then we can actually start to build and develop platforms for how we can follow and therefore execute the sales transactions with these consumers. Technology becomes more critical. So for businesses that have been averse to technology, this is an opportunity for you to actually adopt technology to drive your sales. Again, it can be as simple as a telephone call. It doesn't have to be complex, right? It can be as simple as a telephone, an app, or something a lot more sophisticated than what you have. So how will you manage your customers, right? How will you drive business development with customers? How will you cover the channels, and how would you measure the execution of your sales drivers at retail? How will sales operations close the loop from forecasts and other management to actual delivery of the product, right? A sale only happens when the final product is in the hand of the consumer and is actually consumed. Physical distribution or closing the last mile becomes very, very critical. One of the major beneficiaries of this particular period worldwide was Amazon. And that's because over time, they had been trying to build one of the most efficient distribution systems. People have to remember they were not making a profit from their logistics or distribution business. However, they've been logging at it, trying to cut down, remove layers, remove expenses, and manage that. And guess what? When the world was locked down, they had an opportunity because they already had the framework or they already had the platform that will continue to do and drive distribution and therefore ensure that customers can have access to their goods. So it's critical for sales people and sales managers and people as the leading sales team, not just to focus on the order, on the transaction or getting the sales in, but how the sales get to the customers and how you complete the loop and how the cash comes into the company, right? And how you manage that using technology where there's no interface with the customer. The customer can actually transfer money from his account into your account, and you have certain software that can actually do all the reconciliation, and therefore you can do the transfer. But the physical goods have to be moved by somebody from one point to another. And depending on the size of the customer or the kind of coverage that you cover, you may find out that you need a distribution partner that is able to disaggregate these goods that you have if you're dealing with physical goods, and therefore move the goods across to the various customers or consumers as you need. And the last point is around how you manage your sales team and also drive their development. Because Sales guys are like the field forces. You have to be with them most of the time on the ground to understand what they're going through, to be able to work with them and therefore help them as they make their calls and correct. Now you don't have that opportunity because there's limitations in movement, and therefore you will have to do this offline. Now, depending on the terrain where they are and the access to the technology becomes something that is very, very difficult. So there are certain levels of trainings that will have to move online, and therefore people will have to start to self-train, and you have to create time for you to be able to back check or ensure that, okay, these guys are working on the things they're supposed to do. The same way you would manage the customers, the same way you manage your team. And we have to assume, right, that everyone is teachable. One of the things I find most absurd is we think that our customers, because they don't speak English, right, I'm talking this time now in particular to FMCG customers, because they are illiterate, we think they cannot adopt technology or they cannot use it. No, all we have to do is to speak to them in the language that they understand. We've got to sell the benefits of why they have to change, right? So the focus is not on the technology, the focus is on what the technology does for them. And this is a watch out, because as everyone is talking, move online, use technology, you've got to watch the cost of the technology you're adopting and what it will actually give you. Because you can make a lot of investment and you find out that you don't actually get the return that you deserve because not all the transactions have moved on. There's still certain challenges. You can't order a bar of soap that costs 100 naira and where you have a logistic or distribution fee of 200 naira. It's just not going to happen. So there are certain challenges that have to be dealt with and things that have to be put into consideration if you're trying to manage your team, you are trying to manage how you execute sales, especially post-COVID. So just to summarize, COVID is just another disruptor, right? So I don't see it as anything special. It's a pandemic, yes. The effects have been more dramatic and drastic, but basically, every time we tend to get one disruptor that changes the way consumers react, where consumers shop, the way consumers operate, and the way society operates. The key is to always understand those disruptors and look at how do you build a sales system that is agile. So you have a spine that is agile and has the capacity to follow the channels of consumption. How do you build critical partnerships, right, for distribution and logistics that will help ensure that you can get the last mile delivery of your product to your customers and consumers. We shouldn't waste this crisis. This is an opportunity to review your sales fundamentals and make adjustments. Do you really need the size of the sales team that you have? You know, I sometimes pull the legs of my commercial director to say, wait a minute, if I look at what has happened in the last 2 or 3 months, how much of our sales has come because of the effort of our sales team? Or how much of it is because of the brand that we've built? And therefore, we need to look at, okay, how much more do we expect if we truly deploy our sales team in the best manner? And if we can't deploy them in the best manner, should we be looking at whether we actually need a sales team of that size? So just to summarize, sales was affected because of the impact on people not being able to move and supply chain. There are new opportunities as consumers move to new channels to fulfill their needs, especially online. Technology is a solid enabler and will be usefully deployed appropriately. It is not an end, but a means to an end. The last line becomes more critical, especially for physical products that have to be delivered. At the end, what will always matter, irrespective of the platform that you use, is the teams that always demonstrate that their propositions deliver better value and make it easier for their customers or consumers to do business are the ones that will always win. So our focus should not be on the pandemic. Our focus should not be on the challenges. Our focus is how can we use this crisis as an opportunity to improve business and the way we do business with our customers and consumers. Thank you for your attention, and if there are any questions, I can take them.
So much. Thank you so much, Mr. Alex Goma. Thank you. That was a wonderful session. Very grateful. That was short, sharp. and I'm sure a lot of solutions to our sales challenge are packed in that short address. It mentions something that I think may form our next line of discussion. How can your sales be agile? That's awesome. And you can't wait to know more about how your sales can be agile, because we have someone in the house that will be talking about agile marketing. Okay, so we will take the last straw because she's also joining us from Canada, and she's the agile guru herself. She's my mentor in agile because I'm starting agile in Nigeria and Africa. And I've chosen her to be my mentor on agile. All right, so and I can assure you that you don't want to miss this session. This is just an icing on the cake, and it's actually a special session for some set of people. We have decided to consider all of you that have been with us since morning to enjoy this special session. Okay, so once she's done, in a few minutes, you don't be taking too much of our time because she's going to enter another meeting in Canada. But let me let you know, Stacy, that we have in-house Dr. Yusuf from Canada. We have Grantley from Canada, and we have great erudite marketing professionals in Nigeria representing Africa, the best of the best that you want to think of. And Stacey, I can assure you that you want to be in Nigeria as soon as possible. I can send a private jet to bring you down so that you can come and meet my erudite and guru marketers here. I tell you, Nigeria is set to go agile, and we will be welcoming you on board. Like I said, remember I told you you are going to be my mentor on agile, and I want to begin to represent you right now in Nigeria and Africa. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be the topping, like you call it, the icing on the cake. And like I said, it's a special session, and marketing is advancing. And that's why we have tried to bring Stacy. I call her Madam Agile. Stacy, we want to give you a Nigerian name. What name will you choose?
A Nigerian name? What are you going to give me?
Okay, we'll give you Aduke. Is that nice? Aduke. Will you all support that if we give Stacy Aduke? Or let me bring my people on so that let's get a little encouragement for you here. Okay, so your mic is on mute. So suggest which name should we give Stacy? You know, a Nigerian name we give Stacy this afternoon.
I can't wait to hear it. you teach me my Nigerian name. I'm looking forward to it.
I think we should give her Tokumbo.
Aisha.
Adubi, Aduke.
Tokumbo is fine. Tokumbo.
Yes.
Imabong is excellent too.
Yeah, I want to name Stacy. That's in Nigeria name. She wants one. Oh, he's not with us.
He's there, but I'm not sure.
Okay, we will all support Aduke. Okay, Stacy, Aduke is someone that is specially taken care of.
You got me a name now?
So everybody takes care of that precious person. Okay. That is a Yoruba name in Nigeria. Preciously cared, you know, so that's what we'll give you this afternoon. So
okay.
Stacy Aduke Akuma. All
you're
right.
gonna have to email that to me so I can see how that.
Welcome. So
yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, Stacy is an agile professional, and I think she's more the brain or the first person that will start talking about agile marketing because of her passion for marketing. She's done a lot in different fields, and she has chosen this particular aspect of marketing, which I would say is another branch entirely focusing in marketing. And for all you care, this is what you will want to identify with. I believe Agile or Agile marketing is one, next level that every marketing or marketers or marketing professionals should learn more. So I can tell you, you can't wait anyone to learn more from, Stacy. So Stacy, you have the floor this afternoon to take us on the ride. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so you have the floor.
Okay.
1 second, please, Stacy. Just 1 second. Just 1 second, please. Just hold on 1 second, please. Just pardon me. Just a second, and then we'll bring you back on board. We want you to feel our summit, all right?
That's the official summit song?
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
All right. Are you ready for me to get started? Would you like me to get started? No? Yes? All right. So I'm Stacy Ackerman. Thank you so much for having me here today. I'm actually not in Canada. I'm in the United States. So close to Canada, here in North Carolina on the eastern United States. I'm really not at the beach, but I'm pretending I am. It's making me feel good about where I'm at right now with this lovely background coming on. So I'm here to talk to you today about your marketing department and how your marketing department can be agile, if it's not already. And can everybody see my slides? It looks like the sharing.
Yes, you can host it.
It's good?
Yeah, good.
Okay.
Good.
You can see the slides. All right. So I started my journey as a marketer, and I worked as a marketer for around 15 years and worked as a college marketing adjunct professor at a local community college as well. And spent the last 8 years as Scrum Master, an Agile coach, and Agile trainer. And I started doing this actually in software. So I have seen it both in software and now in marketing. And when I got started in the Agile field about 8 years ago, marketing was not doing this kind of thing. They said, oh, that is not for us. That is for those people in technology. We like how we work. We're not going to change. But I had a problem in my first job at a software company that I was working with. And the problem that I had there was that I was working with the ad agency, and I was working with the end client, and I was working with the software company. And we were 3 different companies in 3 different locations that were not communicating very well with each other. And the ad agency would call me all the time and say, Stacy, I need to change something right away. Go ahead, fix the website, get it on the page, hurry, it's an emergency. And these emergencies were happening several times a day. It was always another emergency. And I was a project manager for the software company at the time. And one of my colleagues taught me about Agile and started explaining what it was and how it could benefit me. And then I said, oh, this makes so much sense. I really get it now. And so they started just explaining to me, and without really taking any formal training, I went ahead and I started experimenting with a few things. So one of the things I tried was to get my ad agency client to start writing a backlog and tell me all of the things that they wanted to work on coming up in the future, and to start prioritizing those in a digital tool. And so we could see it, they could see it, we would have some transparency, and we would have a little bit of order to the chaos, to the madness that was happening. And so we experimented with that as the first thing, and it really cut down on all the emergencies that were happening multiple times a day. The second thing that was really big that I experimented with was getting the software development team, the ad agency, and the end client virtually meeting. We weren't even in person, but virtually meeting every single week and showing the work we had done on the website. And what this did was it reduced a lot of the chaos, a lot of the what are you actually doing, a lot of the miscommunication that happens when you have multiple people and multiple companies involved. And it built out this sense of transparency. And this transparency was really, really new, and it was cool. And I was sold on Agile right from there. I said, this really works. This is really, really interesting. And so I decided that that was now going to be my career, and I was going to pursue Agile as a career rather than marketing. Today, I work as a trainer. I write for a publication called MarTech Today on Agile marketing. I also author case studies for the Business Agility Institute. And I still do have my hands in marketing as well, working as a community manager for another training company, and doing lots of presentations on this like I'm doing here today, and just trying to educate people on both Agile and then how you can use it in marketing and what you might need to do a little bit differently. So I'm really happy to be invited here today. I know right before the pandemic, I was invited to come to Nigeria, and that did not happen. And maybe someday I will meet you all in person when the world is a little less crazy. But anyways, I'm so excited the virtual world has brought us closer together, and that even here sitting in my home in the US, that I can bring you the knowledge that I'm really excited to share.
You're welcome.
So first of all, is anybody familiar, just a show of hands virtually, with the term VUCA?
Yeah.
So you are familiar with this term. So I started teaching marketers about VUCA way before the pandemic. So it means volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. Do you find our world feels like that right now? And I cannot see the chat box. I know people are chatting. It's kind of hidden when I'm showing my display here. All right. So VUCA. We have more VUCA right now than I've ever experienced in my lifetime, and I'm sure all of you feel the same way. We all probably had an idea of what 2020 was going to look like in our marketing. And maybe we had a really tight plan, maybe we had a loose plan, but most of us probably had some sort of plan that we were following. For me and my business, I had a high level plan. It blew up, right? Everyone's plans kind of blew up, and we're sitting in this this place right now where we have to be able to quickly respond to the world around us. We don't know what it's going to bring. We don't know what is going to happen in the world. We just know that a 5-year marketing plan is invalid. A 1-year marketing plan is invalid. So what Agile does is it teaches us how to plan. So some people think Agile, we throw out all plans. We still plan in Agile, but what we do is we plan with a lot of flexibility built in there. So we plan with the assumption that we cannot control the things in the world around us, and that we have to be willing to adapt and change gears at any time. So Agile sets us up to be able to do that really well, because we plan high level early, but we plan details often, and we don't really plan details until we're about to do the work. So what happens, instead of all this really long upfront planning that things like COVID make it just disappear, we're going to have a vision of where we're going with our marketing. We might have a quarterly high level goals and some ideas. But that planning that happens, we do that on a more as needed basis, and we call it at the last responsible moment. So agile marketing allows us to do that a lot better than traditional marketing, where we assume we're right. We spend a lot of time up front doing a lot of research. And if those plans aren't executed, we've wasted a lot of time. So the idea with agile marketing is that we're doing micro campaigns and we're getting things out quickly. We're getting real-time feedback from our customers, and we're responding to the environment around us. So what do you think? Is marketing about customers, or is it about management? I don't know how marketing is in your culture, but I can tell you that in the United States, most marketing is decided by management. And a bunch of managers usually sit around a boardroom and they don't have any data. They have power, and they use their power to influence, and they say, this is the marketing that we need to do. And they make a plan, and then it goes all the way down the funnel to the people that are going to do the marketing, and they're handed it off like a McDonald's worker, and they say, okay, now go do this. And they don't have a lot of thought in it or a lot of say in it. And the decisions aren't often made with the customer in mind. They're made with the company in mind. So in the US, we're very profit driven. Can we make money at this? 20 years ago, more than 20 years ago now, I went to college for journalism and communications. And we were taught about pushing messages to our customers. You know, you build it, they will come, we would push the messages down. It was not about customer relationships. It was about, we're the company, we want to sell you something. It was selling at all costs mindset. Today, that does not work. Customers are very educated. They're very informed. They can find out information quickly. How they interact with your company and your brand becomes very collaborative, and it needs to be quick. We can't be making the decisions about what our customers want in the boardroom anymore. Okay? We have to make those decisions about what our customers want from our customers. And the way we do that is by launching smaller campaigns more often and using that feedback to inform what we're going to do next. And getting ourselves away from the power struggles and the power plays and who has the highest paycheck. I don't know if that is your culture, if that's an issue there, but in the US, very, very much the culture. So another reason that marketers are getting involved is in the United States, software development teams have been using Agile for the past 10 years. It's really been around 20 years, but I would say in the last 10 years, more and more often. But what we've discovered in the Agile world and in the corporate world is that Agile is not about a single department. You can't just be Agile in software and not be Agile anywhere else in the company. It becomes a culture clash within the organization, right? It's like, saying I'm this religion, you're that religion, but we're all living under one roof, and we have different values and different things we're doing. And so we need to have our companies all embrace what we call business agility. That is agility throughout the whole company. And so marketing is one of the fastest growing areas in that. We're also seeing it happen in finance and human resources. But here's a problem that I ran into when I was consulting with a client. Their software development team had worked really hard. They were getting more agile. They were releasing software quickly. However, the marketing department in the same company was not agile. They were still following traditional management practices, and they could not market the software as it came out because they were too slow. They were too forced down by rigidity and defined process thinking and managers controlling everything. And so even though the company had gotten so great at saying, oh, our website updates are going to happen all the time, we have these wonderful new things for our customers, marketers have to be there to help customers know about it. And when your marketing team isn't on board with it, the whole thing kind of dissolves, right? It's not as effective. So I'm going to talk to you now about some trends that I have witnessed in marketing that might be a little bit differently than what we're seeing in Agile in traditional software teams. So there are some definite differences to the adoption of how marketers are embracing Agile marketing. So the first thing is they are more framework agnostic. And if you're not familiar with frameworks, Scrum is a very common framework you might hear about, or Kanban is another common framework. XP is a framework more on the software side. So those are frameworks. And frameworks are designed to give you a lightweight process to be agile. And when we say agile, we are only talking about a core set of principles and values. There's no process to agile. We're trying to be agile, but there's no recipe for doing that. So the frameworks give us, I wouldn't say necessarily a recipe, but a little more definition on how to go about working to embrace agility. So in software development, we most often see what we call the Scrum framework being used. And Scrum is basically a time-boxed framework where you have a set of meetings, a set of roles, and a set of artifacts, and it repeats on a cycle. And it is pretty lightweight. There's still a lot of room for interpretation by the organizations itself. The Kanban framework is what we call a flow method, and we are looking at efficiency and flow, and it originated actually in manufacturing from Toyota in Japan and how they were working through building their cars. And so they're two kind of different frameworks. What we're most commonly seeing is in marketing is a hybrid of those two put together. So marketers are less likely to embrace a single framework, but more want to kind of pick and choose the pieces that they feel work for them. I have found that small companies or ad agencies or digital agencies, very quick turn types of marketers do better with Kanban. And larger companies with more traditional process do better with Scrum. So that's kind of what I'm seeing as far as it. But the adoption has been a little bit less about the framework in marketing than we see it in software development. So we've also seen a trend in terminology changes. And Scrum has 3 roles called a Scrum Master, a product owner, and a development team. And everybody else is either a stakeholder or they might have a job title within their company, but the framework of Scrum does not define that title. And most commonly, marketers are embracing what they call a marketing owner role, which is a little bit of a hybrid of a product owner and a Scrum Master, doing both things. And so that person is usually working with the leadership to understand which work is coming down, what the priorities are for the business. And they are working on prioritizing a backlog of marketing activity and working with customers to understand the marketplace. And they are also trying to help teach the team about Agile. Although I will say from my experience that teaching the team about Agile and marketing is a bit of a gap because most marketers have never done it before. They don't have that built-in expertise, at least what I'm seeing in my part of the world, and they don't have that experience level. So that part seems to still be a gap. They are starting to realize that reaching out to a coach or a trainer or someone outside of their organization is probably a good idea if they don't have that in-house already, because it's hard for someone internally to teach the rest of the company if they themselves have never done it. So we are seeing a little bit of a shift in that right now. Oh, does someone have a question?
No, continue.
Okay. I will definitely do some Q&A here at the end as well. So one thing, I don't know how familiar you guys are with Agile and Agile marketing, but in software, we have developed a technique called a user story. And a user story is writing out our work in the form of the user of a system. So it might be saying something like, as a instructor, I want to log into Facebook to see if I can find new students. That would be a user story. Really built around technology. So one of the adaptations that I made, and this is a Stacey Ackerman adaptation, so you may not find it too many places, but I've started to call this a customer story. And this comes from my journalism background. If anyone here has a journalism background, who, what, why, where, when, how, right? And so in a customer story, we're looking at, first of all, we're turning our work a little bit differently. So if I were to say, I need to write a press release, okay, that is the what, but we're taking it one step further. So I need to write a press release for who and why, and what is the benefit to that person for this, right? So, I might say something, as a reporter, I want to get a press release so I understand what the latest COVID update is in the United States. Okay, so we're just adding a little bit more color to our work. So our teams, because Agile is all about working in teams, our teams can understand who the work is for and the benefit of the work. So we're just putting this into more of a sentence form that is more marketing friendly. Marketers today typically just, say, I'm doing this thing, right? This is the work I'm doing. So we're trying to take that one step further and Agile to be more customer centric. The other concept that we're applying in Agile marketing is what we call the minimally viable. So we have minimally viable personas, campaigns, and briefs, and I'll kind of walk you through what those